Alright, so today we're going to do something a little bit different. I found that instead of dragging this out, the tweaking process of everything, and having a whole other hour tutorial just about cleaning up this extra topology here, and things like softening the normals on the bottom here. See, that should be softened, etc., etc. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that off camera. And then I'll bring us back in. Like, extruding this in is something that you don't need to see me do again. I might bevel it, I might not. But you'll see a few changes that are going to quickly jump after I pause this video and go ahead and do this. But I want to do that because I feel like the tutorials are dragging on a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that, and I'll see you guys soon. You'll probably see the clock up here jump. Alright, so we're back. That took a little longer than expected, but I ran into some interior faces inside the model here. And that's why we don't extrude inwards, because those would have been extra tries sitting in the way. When we went to paint it, it wouldn't have painted over the edge because they wouldn't have been connected. So, stuff to watch out for. I also have some non-planar faces in here, but that's not a big issue. Like, you can see there's some non-planar here. But I want to go into something. Here's what we have so far. I decided to go ahead and throw back on those things for a minute to show you where it is, and it's looking pretty good. It looks almost complete just without the other side. So in here, this is a very useful tool. You have selected and all the objects affected. It's pretty self-explanatory. The stuff in here, instead of going to display polygons and selecting these one by one, it's down here at the bottom. I recommend you put this on your shelf. And it's fantastic. You can throw on so much stuff. You can see your UV topology here. That comes in handy sometimes. Soft hard is one of the biggest features I use here, and border edges. If you have border edges turned on, it'll highlight the border edges with a thicker line. And with soft hard, it'll take your lines and the ones that aren't border edges, of course, and they will dot the soft ones, and they will have a hard line for the hard ones. So it's really easy to figure out which ones you have soft hard without just toggling them back and forth. Edge width, vertex size, all logical things. You can go ahead and explore this on your own, but just showing you that feature. Now you can see I went ahead and I found all the ones that I wanted to change to the other direction. And you can see some of these are blued out. That's because I have non-planar faces on. I'm going to turn that off because it's kind of distracting. And I've already solved any non-planar faces that were going to actually cause an issue. Like on the bevel, you're going to have non-planar faces more than likely. The time spent cleaning that up, you're not going to notice that, especially when it's the soft and normal. It's almost impossible to notice that they're non-planar. Plus, the engine's going to triangulate everything for us anyway when we go to render. So if it looks good here, it'll probably look good there. Okay, I thought I missed something, but I did not. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get up to the fun part. We're going to flip this over itself. So I also, you're probably noticing, oh, that's new. I threw in the pipe that goes through here. It's going to be seemingly transparent. I'm going to put a moving normal map in there, kind of like how water works in Unity, to make it look like fluid is flowing through there. Probably need some creative texturing, but fun stuff. I might have to put another plane here or something to make that work, but for now we're not going to worry about it because that is for game optimization time. This is finishing the weapon time. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start cleaning this stuff out. I'm going to isolate select this. I'm going to go into face mode. And I'm just going to click and drag all the way down the side. And I'm going to control click and drag all the way down again. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make sure that I do in fact only have these inside pieces selected. Going to save, of course. And then delete. Making sure I didn't delete anything in here because those were especially small pieces. What else needs that? These are empty on the side. The cartridge needs that, so let's go ahead, isolate, select this, grab face mode. That just isolated that one object and that one face. Oh, I also added a bevel, a smaller bevel to the clip, but a bevel nonetheless. You can see it's only a two-face bevel instead of three, which we've been using on everything else. I just wanted that because later on I am going to have like the clips attached to the guy's shoulders and sides so that he can quick pull them out. And I want that. That's going to go into character development to make that look good. Here this has one face left on the inside. No need to hop into the other mode. I'm going to combine these together. We could delete them and then duplicate them, but there's no need for that. Or delete the other ones and then duplicate them later, but I don't think we need to do that. So it's very important to clear out these inside faces. Otherwise, when you try and merge it, you're not going to have border edges to merge with. And then you're going to have non-manifold geometry. Which, in case you can't figure out just by the name of it, sounds bad. It's bad, okay? Okay? I don't do impersonations or impressions. These actually don't come off, and I just realized that, so we actually don't need any of these interior faces in here. Just going to save another iteration here. And it's fun time. So I used to have mirror geometry up here. You saw me delete that in the intro tutorial. And that's because I don't use it that frequently. But I actually am not sure I know where that is. Something for new people, if you are new and watching this. This search in here for Mac is just fantastic. Just type in the name of the tool you're looking for. Hover over it. Don't click it from here. You can click it from here. But if you really want to learn where stuff is and get that muscle memory, you're going to go over here. So I'm going to do merge with original. And, oh geez, it's been so long. I'm going to say the XZ looks like it's the appropriate one. Going to undo that because it was apparently wrong. XY. Undo that. Undo all of those. I'm going to try something. I'm going to group all these together and I'm going to center the pivot. Then I'm going to scale X -1. And then I'm going to ungroup it. Actually, you can go to edit ungroup. There's another way of doing that. I don't know what this is doing in there, but don't need it. It's NURBS circle. So that's what that circle was in a couple videos ago. So mystery solved there. Now let's do this. I feel like a fool. I'm doing mirror cut. I want mirror geometry. So I'm actually going to go ahead and undo all that. Because I like working from this angle more. Just ungroup again. There we go. So now we're going to go to mirror geometry. There we go. This is the box that I'm familiar with. I haven't mirrored since my 2012. I thought they just changed the interface for it. So here we can tell that we want to mirror on the x-axis in the positive direction. Merge with the original. Merge vertices. That's what we're going to want to do. Apply. And there we go. That's looking pretty good. And now I'm just going to make sure that I have border edges on. They are on, which means this worked pretty well. That's not good. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to go into mirror geometry. I'm just going to add this to my shelf real quick. I'm going to turn off merge with original. I'm going to hit apply so that that doesn't happen. Because what happened is these were too close, and it decided that they were meant to be together. Sounds like a love song. So I'm going to grab these vertices, and I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to deselect these, Going to deselect these and these. And now I've got a little more control over what happens here. And then I'm going to do the same thing that it does, except I'm doing it only on selected vertices, so it'll apply. That's that merge vertices. And here you can actually set a different tolerance than what they default use. So that's a thing. That just looks weird because the edge is directly on top of that. So now we can go in here and we can delete edge because we don't need that. That's a lot of polygons that we're going to save here. Because really, this is just splitting completely flat faces in half. That's all it's doing. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to delete it. I'm going to delete that as well. Delete those. And yeah, I'm being a little nitpicky right now, but I did just go and hunt down all the extra vertices, and I don't want to do that again. So I'm going to stop them as I find them and finish my model a little bit earlier than having to go back and closely re-examine. I'm still going to go ahead and check again, because stuff can always happen out of nowhere. I could have missed something earlier, but I'm not going to have to focus too hard on that second go through. I want to merge these two together. It's actually nice working without the software running, because it wasn't giving me the lag that it gives me. There we go. Just looking for any issues might have occurred. Does look a little blocky, but I'm not too concerned about that. So let's go ahead and let's start duplicating these other assets. We can just use the quick hit there. And let's get rid of these edges here that are wasted because there's an extra vertice here. Go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna be bad and hit the triangulate button and see how it works. It did alright. There's a topology I want to fix here. Let's get that out of our way. I don't like what it did here, because you know how much I love those perfect rectangle topologies. They are great. That's the only spot that occurs. This is now a quad, so I don't need that. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Actually, I'm pretty sure I just deleted all the topology that it built for me automatically. I don't think that helped at all. Let's go ahead and let's just quickly touch this up. Trying to work as fast as I can because the clock is against us. The clock is never with you. Sorry, but it's the truth. Go ahead and harden that. I know I said at the beginning of the series that I didn't like using those the soft hard markup menus, but actually I'm starting to warm up to them, and that's the thing. You can surprise yourself sometimes. When you're working on something, never close yourself off to something, because you could be wrong. I was. Like I said before, anything out of the markup menu, even if it pains me to have to learn it, hey, I'm fine. I'm fine with that if it increases my productivity. Here, it shouldn't have been merging there. I don't know why it was. Because we told it not to. With my, I already have it set. If that's the first time you're doing this to prevent that, this to prevent that, you'll want to set this a little lower. I think the default is 0.01, so I have it like 0.0001. And that works for me, because I only really use it when I know that the vertices are lying directly on top of each other. I don't know how this signifies directly on top, but in my world it does. And another thing, if this is giving you too much trouble, you can always just duplicate it, flip it over the axis you want to flip it over, and that's it. So you have another option for flipping your geometry. This is just a lot easier. Oh, my hands are cold. No, that's usually seen as a gamer problem, but in this case my hands are cold. Oh, I see what we did here. We're gonna quickly do a modification here. Not vertex face, vertex mode. And I'm going to change this tool setting to center. I could have also just used merge vertices to center, which would have been a little faster, but when there are literally an infinite number of ways of doing anything in Maya, sometimes you'll do something differently for seemingly no reason. So I'm seeing an issue here because I deleted those inside faces. These guys need 2 divisions each. And then I'm going to have to change this back to target vertice, or target vertex. I don't think vertice is a word, is it? Because vertex is singular. So vertices, vertex, vertici. Vertices would be the plural. So this vertice, I'm not putting the S on it. I don't know. I don't think it matters, quite frankly. This is an unnecessary vertex. And this should be a hard edge. I thought I caught all those. See, like I said, you can catch more issues. I'm just gonna select this. No, not that. I'm gonna select this so I can work with it a little easier. Grab this vertex. There we go. I'm going to check right here to make sure it didn't give me a double edge. That could have occurred. 4, 4, good. Grab this vertice. Vertex. I don't know if that's allowed, but I don't think it really matters. So I'm going to say what works for me, and you can say what works for you. Now I could have undone the mirror and make this take a little less time, but it was just a heat of the moment change, and it'll only take, what, 20 seconds more, a minute. But a minute's a minute. So I'm gonna take this off so we can see what we're doing again. That is looking good. Now let's do the grip. That had no problem. It did. Man, this is not being my friend today. Of course, I made the mistake of confusing it with something else, so I can't really blame it. There we go. That's looking good. Let's do these guys now. You can see we're actually not that bad. I was saying 6,000 vertices at the end of this. I mean, we'll see where we actually end up, but someone moving their furniture above me. I noticed in the last couple videos you guys actually couldn't hear some of the stuff that I hear, and it's probably partially because I'm using the built-in mic for my computer. But going to save because of that bug. Forgot to duplicate. Just use those to line these up. That's not good. This happens sometimes, and if anyone out there has a solution for it, I'd be greatly appreciative. It deletes the texturing on some of these faces, and I've tried isolating it in the hypershade, trying to map this and figure out what's going on, and it's got this transform here. Delete by type history and save. I wonder if I delete this transform. No, it just deletes the whole object. The initial shader group. I mean, just throwing this back on fixes it. For now, at least. So, I don't know why that happens sometimes, but making sure you save and you delete history will prevent some of that stuff from occurring. Especially delete history will help reduce the chances of that happening. Where are we on time? We're about halfway through our video. And we have duplicated everything over to the other side. That's pretty exciting. Because now what we have to do is duplicate these. Drag this over here. Center the pivot just for fun. Even though I rarely ever use the handles on an object, it's still not a bad idea to have the pivot centered. So there are a few things that are dependent on that, on the location of the center of the mesh, which is determined by pivot. Select all, delete history, gonna save. That is looking pretty sexy. Looks a little thicker than I might want it. But if I want to solve that, it's just a matter of selecting everything but my pipes. Center all the pivots, group it all together, center the group pivot, and we can make it a little thinner. Oh. Undo the group, unselect that. We want that to stay round. This is going to squeeze in these a little bit, but it's not looking like a significant amount. Now it's looking a little more like what I'd envisioned. Maybe I'll pull in these a little bit more later, but we'll see what I decide to do. That's a decision that can wait. I did see that this trigger was something that we didn't actually duplicate that because it's a small enough thing that we can just, it's small and it's not detailed, we can just do this. Probably could have gone inside and done vertices at this point, but that's all I really want to do with that. The trigger is such a small detail that I'm really not concerned with it at all. Yeah, that's just fine. See, I'm wondering if these are even worth softening. No, they're not. I'd have to add another division, and I don't want to do that. It should really almost be a polycylinder at this point. And I think that does it for the modeling tutorials. That's right, we made it through. We can take a look at some of the details here. Like, I might want to put something attached here. But I'm thinking I'll probably just make a small bump map here, or a normal map cylinder intrude here, or make it look like an intrude, and just have that as kind of like an infrared or a laser sight or something. Yeah. And we'll see when we get to painting. I'll go ahead and I'm probably going to run through a little refresher for myself with 3D painting before I actually go ahead and do that tutorial. But we'll see if we... I'll test and see if we can make this work. Otherwise, I'll just put it in myself and tell you that I went ahead and did that. So the only other changes I did during the break was I triangulated some of the stuff back here. I added this here. Yeah, that's really just about it. See, it looks a little bit off on the top view now. Oh, and since we have a little extra minute, I'm going to give you another useful tip. If you change any of these cameras, if you like rotate it or anything, when you start up Maya, actually I'll go ahead and I'll just show you. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and save as an iteration. And I'm going to open up 14. Yeah, save it. You'll see that you get a warning, could not find appropriate startup camera, a substitute will be used. My face might be covering this, I'll make sure to move it up above that. And you'll see, well, it's probably not happening because I'm not actually restarting Maya. But when it says that, this will usually be like your front camera, or whichever one you change will become one that you didn't change, because it says a substitute will be used. All you got to do is got to go into Panels, Orthographic, and select your top, and it'll change to your modified top camera. So it'll probably come in like this. This is what happened to me last time. You'll see it's the same camera. And all you'll do, Panels, Orthographic, top. Your camera hasn't been deleted or anything. It's just when it starts up, it looks for a camera with the default properties to do. You really shouldn't change your camera settings like I did. That was bad of me, but you can always make a new camera by just going Panels, New, Top. And then you can rotate that around to what you need it to be. And that's really all that I have for you. We have our weapon made. We can go ahead and we can delete our image planes, and it's never actually deleted. If you want to reduce your file size, just a tiny bit, it's not going to reduce it a lot. But it's a good idea to keep your hypershade and like all your materials in here cleaned up, and also oh wow. So if you're using my 2012, I know for a fact that it does this. If you delete them in there, it'll leave your textures in the Utilities tab. So you'll want to go ahead and delete those if you're using my 2012 or earlier. But it looks like it actually goes ahead and it deletes them for you. That's actually nice. Now it'll delete them for you from the Utilities. So if you're using Maya 2013 or above by the time that you're watching this video, that's something that you can just go ahead and keep in mind. And remember how I said earlier not to marvel at your work? Now is the time that you take a moment and you marvel at your work. And you look back, you're not marveling at it necessarily, but you look back at what you've done, what you could have done better. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on cameras off so that all I have here is my weapon. And you have just, all you have is your model, and you can go ahead, you can look at it. This would be the time that you make a turntable animation if you want to show off just the model before you start tweaking stuff for Mudbox or whatever program you use, ZBrush, etc., etc. Because we're going to end up changing some stuff, but we're not going to actually change the shape. For instance, we're going to add divisions here because Mudbox has issues with cylinders that don't have a lot of extra divisions. We're going to add them here. But then we're going to, because it's going to generate a file, I'm going to show you that in the next tutorial. What I was saying is, now is the time to look back at what you did, what you could have done differently. Look for errors also after you're done marveling, because I just found one. Remember we said we were going to delete this on one side? And since I have a couple minutes, I might as well throw a few tips like this your way. Grow selection works similar to how it does in Photoshop. You just hold Shift and then the right arrow, the right, not bracket, but the thing that you use to make a heart in Facebook, to type a heart. But you use the one pointing right, and it'll expand your selection. Left will decrease your selection, and just select all the faces next to it. I think I mentioned this in a previous video, or maybe I lost it because of that crash. But I use it for like highlighting windows and stuff, and it works great. So there I can go ahead, delete that, and then fill this hole. I'm going to make sure that it didn't soften those normals. Good. These normals don't have to be soft. And see, this is where you go back and you start finding stuff and you start tweaking it a little bit. Is because when you're marveling and looking at your work, you're going to find these things. But you're also thinking about things that you might have wanted to do differently, things that you might want to actually go ahead and change. Anything that didn't translate well from your concept art, anything like that. Like, for instance, I didn't like how thick the weapon ended up being, so I changed it. Oh, I know why these are like this. So these do have to be soft because the surface does kind of slant up here a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and soften those. You may or may not be able to see that on the recording, but there's a little dark line between where it's triangulating. But I think once we get a texture on that, no one's going to see it. Like I said, you may or may not even be able to see it now. And you can just go ahead and look at your model, think of things you might have wanted to do differently, maybe bevel this edge here, things like that. But I had really good concept art, and I knew just about where I wanted to go with everything on this. I actually probably spent an equal amount of time on the concept art as I did on creating it. That's because, like I said, my 2D art is something that I need to improve on. And that's another thing. You think about where you can improve on, what you might need to just go ahead and practice with something non-consequential, something that you're not going to necessarily use for a project, but you can go ahead and build models that you might not use. You can always sell them on like Creative Clash or something like that, or better yet, give them away for free. Because if it's just something that you did to practice and learn, it may not have come out perfectly well, and indie game companies are hard enough to start up as it is when they have to buy everything. Oh, look, I've got some soften or some hard normals that I want softened. So helping them out and building some models that you're not going to charge for because you just use them for practice is not the most evil thing you can do. I'm not saying ever work for free. In fact, never work for free. Unless it's an internship during college. Internship out of college, you get a paid internship. Because if you start working for free, you start screwing up the market. That happens a lot in the general design market. That happens a lot with several different things. You just want to make sure that because I'm not saying that you can harm other people, but you can harm that company's view of what people are worth. If they think, oh well, we got someone for free to do this last year, why are we going to pay you $30,000 a year to do something that we got for free from this intern? Like I said, internship out of during college, yes, go ahead. Maybe during grad school, times are changing, but don't work for free. Usually, the people who are giving you a position that they're not going to pay you for, number one, are not very reputable. They're not going to help you move your career along. Number two, they probably don't know what they're doing. Their project could collapse. It could never see the light of day. Maybe you signed a non-disclosure agreement like I did on one project, and I was working for free. I know. I'm telling you this based on my own experience. I worked for this company overseas. We communicated via the internet, and things just fell apart because they got caught in what's called feature. What is it actually called? Feature creep. Feature creep. Project Creep. It has several names, most of them ending with creep, but it's actually a deadly thing. And you can stop this video now if you don't want to hear this kind of stuff, but I think that a lot of these things are important to talk about. Even if it is just at the end, it's kind of your reward for sticking around, maybe. Feature creep is deadly with games. My glasses are crooked, I'm sorry. Feature creep is deadly with games because what happens is your director, your executive director, producer, whatever they choose to call themselves that's up on top, may not always know everything that goes into it. And this is why companies want senior position staff to really know every piece of the pipeline and be able to work with it. Even if on like a mediocre level, they at least know what goes into it and the limitations and your perspectives. So that's very important for a senior staff member, is to be able to look all the way down the ladder and understand where people are coming from when they're trying to contribute. And feature creep will happen when you have someone who doesn't necessarily know all that stuff, and they go, well, an example for the 3D virtual tour we're developing currently. He saw real grass. We said it started out as like blocked grayed out buildings. It's not going to be anything. It's just going to be a 3D virtual tour. Hey, this is cool, because he didn't know what we could do and what the limitations were. As he started moving on, seeing what we could do, finding out that his staff is actually a little better than he may have anticipated. Hopefully he's not watching this, or else that could be trouble. But I don't think he's going to see this in the next year. um, as long as when they start seeing what you can do, and then they start looking around at other games and they start looking at other stuff. He said, well, we were doing just a texture flat on the ground, and then we were doing billboarded grass. And he said that he's seen real grass in real games, and that's because he didn't know that it was actually billboarded grass. And we'd already explained the tech to him, so he thought that you're tricking using something that's not done in real games. And then he found out, and then we had to explain to him, show him YouTube tutorials and stuff to get him to understand that it's not real grass. But he started out being completely content with grayed out buildings, and then he went all the way to, I want real grass, mesh grass, which is completely absurd for how large the scene is, and how, since it is a real instance or a real environment, it's not optimized so that some stuff can be easily occluded and culled and everything, while other things can have more polygons because of that occlusion, that optimization. So it's a game that's huge, and it has a lot of polygons and a lot of textures being rendered at the same time. And so he starts looking at other games, and he doesn't understand the idea of how this is working. I feel like I'm babbling on at this point, and every once in a while I'm losing my train of thought. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video there, and had an extra special short episode this time, and then we'll get on to UV mapping, which is always the most fun part. And I'm going to talk about how UV mapping works with Mudbox and how you want to optimize everything. So I'll see you guys next time for the UV mapping tutorial number 1.